time to catch up.
Okay.
But it also lies to us a little bit. So it's showing you all of this.
Well,
um,
hello, Facebook Live people.
and we should be on YouTube as well for anybody who's subscribing to Mel.
Hello, YouTube.
Okay, so I'm Raphy and this is Mel.
Hi.
We'll introduce each other a little bit, maybe. We haven't really kind of planned the talk, so you're getting like a fresh, generated, on the spot, creative conversation, which is exactly what we want.
Yeah.
Because
Oh, we have lost Raphy. Raphy's disappeared. So this is all part of the fun. Um, I can't. Oh, there you are. You're back. What did you do?
sorry, I think my
You just
connection glitched
okay.
out for a minute.
That's fine. That's fine. So I'm going to start with this, right? Because so Raphy is our event sponsor for the Akashic Way, and how it all came about is the most like ridiculous story that, and this is why we're like, there's no point planning a call like this, because it's almost like the universe has been conspiring to bring Raphy's work, which really embodies this creativity and this making a mark in the world through your creative expression, with the Akashic Records and the Akashic Way, which is understanding that every action that we take and every thought that we have is making an imprint in your Akashic Records. And when we had our initial conversation about what it would mean to be a sponsor, I was like happily talking away, right? And then all of a sudden, I was showing Raphy the website, the akashicreiki.org website, and like she was like, and I was thinking, I know it's a great website, but what? And then she turned around and literally showed me a painting that she'd been creating for the last few weeks that was essentially my website.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was just like goosebumps. I was like, I don't even remember what you were saying because I just like completely like just kind of became irrelevant at that point. And I know like we're talking about the painting as if you all can see it, and I know that you can't. But and that's on purpose because I'm not showing anybody else until the Akashic Way, which is happening on the 12th of February. And the reason for that is really just to kind of like, I don't know, I just feel called to kind of keep that be part of the event.
Yeah.
And that painting is also going to be on sale at the event. And then I'll share I'll share a little bit about the process that I went through to make it and why it felt so aligned when Mel invited me to sponsor the event, because this piece has really been about like kind of for me the integration of the whole, and it's like after having spent most of my life, like most people have spent all of their lives, especially people who are, let's say, junkies for self-development work. And kind of like we have this kind of like almost like an addiction to, let's call it like a creative suffering. We have this kind of like really innate desire to learn about ourselves, to figure out who we are, what we're here on the planet for,
Mm.
and honing our listening to what spirit is wanting to manifest and what spirit is wanting to create through us. And in the midst of that very kind of like pure intent, that then becomes this like, well, it becomes like a problem to fix. It becomes like I'm not listening enough, or I'm not connected enough, or I'm not something enough.
Yeah.
And that exists side by side. And if you don't have there's something about me that I need to fix going on, then maybe this conversation isn't for you, or you're just delusional about that. But that is something that we all hold, even
Yeah.
even those of us who are kind of like very embedded in this work. But there was suddenly like a shift for me in realizing, not just intellectually but like in a more embodied way, it's like, oh, there's really nothing to fix.
Yeah.
And yes, I'm on a healing path, and yes, there's lots to heal, but
Yeah.
to heal really means to become whole. and to become whole with everything that I've ever experienced, to become whole with a part of me that wants to fix things, to become whole with my femininity, to become whole with, my creative self, to become whole with my sexuality, to become whole with my creative power, to become whole with my creative trauma. And that's really kind of, that piece was the culmination of that. And I had put it on a shelf for about 2 weeks because I just couldn't kind of like move forward with it. I wouldn't say I was blocked, but there was something that I was resisting. And then when Mel invited me to be a sponsor, and then that whole thing that she described happens, and I committed to being a sponsor, like the gates of creativity just opened. Like it was just like wild how much I was channeling, how much was coming through at all times of day and night. And
sorry about
that whole that whole experience kind of like really reminded me of, like I personally, I'm here to create. and I believe all humans are here to create something, and the act of creation is so much wider and broader and more nuanced than just what we might think being an artist looks like.
Yeah.
So
you know what's interesting hearing you say about the creative process for that painting, because I didn't know all of this, but the whole of the foundation from this thing that I've seen in the wellness space and the healing space, and as a psychotherapist, right, and as an energy worker, and all the incredible things that I get to do in my life, I realized that there's this perpetuating story that has been going around the healing space that we're broken. And even if you look at a psychology degree, for example, there's like one module, if you're lucky, on what it means to be happy. Everything else is fixated on, here's the problem, this is how we fix it. From a psychotherapy, why do you go? You go because there's a symptom, there's something happening, and you feel broken, and so you want to fix it. And even discussions in the Reiki community about turning Reiki on and off and using Reiki as a healing modality, which it is. But when we come from this element of, well, I'm broken, then that's what we're always going to come back to. And we see it not just in the wellness space, we see it in spirituality, we see it in religion, we see it like it's
in the art space for sure.
It's the tortured artist is the archetype, right? And I've got some theories on that, maybe we'll speak about later, but the essence of Akashic Reiki. So Akashic Reiki is this healing modality and this frequency that I've brought through, that more so that I've created into a healing modality, but not from this space of you only come if you're broken, not from this space of, well, there's something wrong with you, so this is going to fix whatever symptom you're having. But coming from this understanding that maybe we're not happy with all of those things, Raphy, that you just said, the femininity and the sexuality and the trauma and all of this, like these are real human experiences. And where from this point of view, from the Akashic Records point of view, from the view of your soul's library, it looks at all of this and at not one point goes, well, that's broken and that needs fixing and that's that. It goes, here's what happened. And this is how it's helping you grow.
Yeah.
Here's what happened. And when we look at it, where the cracks are, the light enters. Is that Rumi? Yeah. We understand that these are an invitation, that all of these symptoms and these experiences and these things that we're not enjoying, when we come to them from this Akashic point of view, they open up a pathway into more of your becoming.
Yes.
And I think that's what was happening with your painting, is it started on that, and then it was like, and it just invited this missing piece in of, oh yeah, it's not that I'm not broken, so therefore I don't need to do anything about this and I'm stuck. It's I'm perfect as I am and I'm growing into something like your painting.
Exactly. And I think there's one of the questions that I love kind of asking people when I'm facilitating workshops, or even if I'm in a one-to-one conversation, is if your whole life, if everything that's happened in your whole life has been training you to become someone, who is that somebody? And I'm very specific when I say, hi, Anya. And I'm very specific when I say who rather than what.
Yeah.
Because quite often as well, we become very attached to like our roles, because they're kind of a little bit easier to understand, you know, the role of a mother, which is huge and complex, but still easier to understand than the role of a human being.
Mhm.
And, you know, the role of an artist, or the role of a teacher, or the role of a coach, or the role of a business owner.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to become identified with all of these different roles that we hold. But these roles are just vessels through which we express our true purpose.
Right.
And the expression of that really comes from an inquiry of, who am I becoming right now?
Yeah.
Who am I becoming from moment to moment to moment? And what has everything that has happened to me so far? And I suppose from the Akashic Way, it's beyond just this lifetime, you know, it's everything that has happened in my soul's history.
Mhm.
What has it been training me in the service of what?
Yeah.
And, you know, and for me, the journey of being an artist is very much that. Like, as soon as you have a style, you need to find a new one. Like, as soon as you know who you are, you need to create a new identity. And it's this kind of like really an invitation to stay open to that moving, to that becoming, to human being like a verb as opposed to
Yeah.
like a fixed noun.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that definitely resonated with me when you were inviting me to be a sponsor for the Akashic Way, because this is something that so personally have been fundamental in my ability to be in the world,
Yeah.
like really fully as myself.
Yeah.
And really, you know, to be frank about it, overcome like the depression and this, you know, the not wanting to be here element of
Mhm.
what I've experienced. And it also reminds me of a conversation I had with a coaching client a few years ago. You know, I can't remember the details of the conversation, and you know, she was like, "Well, I'm just not happy about it." And I said, "Well, is it okay that you're not happy?"
Yeah.
And then she said, "Well, the goal of life is to be happy." And I said, "No, the goal of life, if anything, is to become whole."
Yeah.
And that means becoming whole with your unhappiness, if that's what's there,
Yeah.
and seeing it for what it is, which is a communicator and a teacher, and just being in a perpetual inquiry of what it is to be alive, which is what art is. And so to me,
Mm.
like, you know, the Akashic Way is to be an artist, ultimately.
Well, it is, because it's, you know, we can go in. I think the most common question that I get is, what's the purpose of life? What's my purpose? Am I on purpose? You know, am I on the right path? And I understand the question and where it's coming from. But for me, the purpose of life is to know yourself
Yeah,
and to become that knowing of yourself. And understanding that this isn't knowing myself, like you just said, it's not about what all my roles are. It's not about what all my identities are. Because if I take that away, if I am my job, then if I lose my job, what am I? If I am a mother and I lose my children, what am I? If I am a wife and I lose my husband, what am I? You know, if I am a certain religious group or a certain sexuality or a certain whatever, like, if something changes with that, then what am I? Like, I am still here.
yeah,
And this whole thing of I am, and it's just that,
yeah,
really, it's like, it's so conceptual. But when we bring that into the Akashic records and we understand from the soul point of view what that really means, is that yes, you are the mother and the child and the sister and the brother and the, you know, and the coach and the mentor and the healer. Like, these are all part of who you are. There's no coincidence there.
yeah,
And these are all helping you, even when you're in that like really unhappy job. And that was my story. I was in a job, I was selling cars, and like, you
really.
know, yeah, I
I
did. Yeah,
never knew that. That's wild.
I worked for Mercedes-Benz for a long time. And you know, part of me loved it, and also it was killing me in a slow way. And you know, I thought I was broken, and that was my invitation into this. I'm broken, and what do I become now? And my invitation really was understanding that this anxiety that I was feeling, and understanding that this like low level depression, and if I'm honest, sometimes going to going to work some days and thinking, well, maybe my brakes will fail and I'll have a break, was actually something talking to me to say there's more than this. Your life isn't the leaderboards on the it's not about the leaderboards. It's not about how many cars you sell. It's not about, moving up through the managerial channels. Like, there's more to life than this. And that helped me find Reiki. That was what brought Reiki into my life. And if I hadn't have been unhappy and stressed, then where would I be? Would I have ever found it? Probably, but not in the way that I have. So Raphy's dropped off, but I'm carrying on. She'll be back in a moment. And if you are here live, pop a note, because apparently magical things happen and it will come up on my screen. Oh, and as I said that, she comes back on the screen. You just missed my whole life story, Raphy.
Well, I got Mercedes-Benz.
Okay, well, I wasn't happy. I found Reiki. Life changed is the thing. But like, this is the thing. If I wasn't unhappy in that moment, I would have carried on doing what I was always doing.
Yeah.
Right. And so the invitation was, I found Reiki, and then I left that job and, did something else. And then other things happened. And, when I look at it from this point of view of my soul's library, and I went back in and not asking, why did this happen to me? But, this happened. And here I am now. What is it teaching me? What am I learning? How am I growing? How is this helping me hone in my talents?
Yeah.
How is this challenge making me stronger, if it is? And now what do I do with that? And for me, I look back on not just this life, but, lives that I've had before. And I see that Akashic Reiki and everything that it holds was inevitable. It was an inevitable path. Yeah. It's not because I'm special and I had all these, whatever.
You've just been kind of training for it, right?
I've been training for it for lifetimes. Yeah. And it comes to that acceptance. And here was the key thing. Like, there's a few things that I've learned working in the Akashic Records. So if you don't know what they are, they're your soul's library. Hey, Joe. Hey, Angela. They're your soul's library, and they contain everything, right? Now, what I was taught and what is commonly known about the Akashic Records is that they record everything that your soul has ever done. Amazing, right? But it's often used as this library of the past. It's often used as, well, what happened? And now I'm going to unravel it all. I'm going to find out about myself. And then, now I know more about myself now. But the question that I asked many years ago was, if everything's being recorded, everything, every thought, every desire, every action, everything,
nothing. It's a slightly scary thought until you get used to it.
Everything, even the thoughts behind the thoughts. Yeah.
Yeah.
If that is true, which I believe it to be so, why? Why would there be this field that records everything? And I don't believe it's just for a few psychics, to be able to go in there and go, oh, well, you were a witch in your past life and blah, blah, blah. Like that can't be true. And so the inquiry, I didn't get answers straight away, but I kept that inquiry through me. And what I began to learn was that there was a path, there was a golden thread, is what I call it. That when we follow it, there's different paths that we can take. And there's our fateful path. So this is kind of like when we're unconscious and we're just kind of like running through life and just letting life happen to us. There'll be fateful moments that will try and steer us in different directions. And then there's a higher path. There's what I call the destiny path. Yeah. And this is the Akashic Way, that we're walking along this destiny path. What's destiny? This is our highest evolution. This is our highest growth. This is the thing that we can become when we, as you said, not become whole, remember our wholness, accept our wholeness, love our wholeness, all of it, all the shadow, all the gold, and all the bits in between. And when we're walking this destiny path, well, then we are accepting who we are. Not just our challenges, not just our shadow, not just the things that we think are wrong with us or broken for us, which is what we've been taught to look at, but also our desires.
Yeah.
also our perpetual need to want to learn everything, as you said, these kind of course junkies. Like, why are we course junkies? Why did we want to come into the coaching industry? Like, why do we want to be healers? Like, we must be nuts to be like, well, I'm going to leave my job and do this thing and, be persecuted by people who think we're weird and all of this stuff. We must be crazy. We could just walk that path and it would be fine, but we're not.
Yeah.
And that's not a coincidence.
Yeah.
That's a tell of that there's something going on.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, no one chooses to be an artist because it's easy. But it's a choice that isn't a choice, because when you choose a different path, of course you have free will. Free will is real, but there's a cost to every choice. And when you choose the path that is the Akashic way, or the artist path, as I call it, then the cost of that is rejection 90% of your days. The cost of that is people thinking you're weird. The cost of that is really having to be so brave and courageous and honest about who you are and what you're doing, why you're doing it, and what's in the service of. It's to be like stalwart in the face of the world's hesitation. And it's to be compassionate and loving for a humanity that's fucking forgotten itself.
Right.
And none of that is easy, and that's the cost for following this path. The cost for not following this path, to me, was depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, essentially not wanting to be here, incredible boredom, numbness. And so you kind of just have to choose. Like, there's that kind of suffering, which is, I would call, a passive suffering.
Yeah.
There's creative suffering.
Yeah.
Where you suffer as a result of your own making. And your own kind of your own I don't know if it's of your own making, but really it's more of like of your own intuiting, I suppose.
It's interesting that you say this, because like, as an artist, when we claim ourselves to be, right, I'm an artist, I'm a healer, right, we do take on the subtext that sits behind it. And when we look at artists, the overlay or the program, the conditioning, the cultural reference to an artist is the long-suffering artist. They're known for depression and suicide, and it's common. When the tortured artist. And when we come onto this path, I think it's understanding that you weren't invited on there to torture yourself.
No, that's different. That's a different kind of it's a different kind of suffering, right? Because it's like, I think there's just something important to acknowledge, that like the path is not easy, but it's the kind of path, it's the kind of suffering, if you like, that gives you life, that has an aliveness about it.
Yes.
Like, and I think, like, if you look at other modalities of healing, like, nervous system work, which I'm a big fan of, like, it's really important to understand the nervous system, because it pretty much drives everything that we do on a like kind of in the background level. And so much of the conversation is just about getting to a point of getting your nervous system to be safe, which is really just the avoidance of suffering. But that's not the goal. That's just the baseline.
Right.
And, what we're really aiming for is to have a nervous system, and a nervous system that has capacity for aliveness, which means sometimes the stress is going to be high, which means sometimes the dopamine's going to be like doing this. And it means that sometimes we feel like our nerve endings is just open to the elements all of the time. And it's being on a path that gives you enough life in return that you can withstand that, because alongside what you might call suffering is also a level of joy, a level of love, a level of sometimes horniness that, like, that's just like so fucking alive. And and it's like, that's what's possible for when we're here in this 3D form, while we're incorporated. And why aren't we accessing that? Like, we're kind of trading that off for safety that isn't really safety.
It comes back to what we said earlier about what the wellness industry has been based on. You're broken. Let's fix you. Let's get you back to where you were. There's no going back. You look at nature, there's no going back. You grow, you keep growing, and you keep on growing. And when you stop growing, you die. And like, that's the truth of nature. That is what we see in nature, right? And why are we different? We are part of nature. And for me, my definition of suffering is actually when we're just not in acceptance of that. Because, you know, rejection, like, yes, it's not nice. Nobody likes it. Yeah. But do we need to suffer from rejection? Because when you are walking the Akashic Way, we understand that, like, the suffering is I don't even want to say a choice, right? But the suffering is a way of being. When we come into acceptance of this is who I am, right? And what is very interesting for me, so I've seen all of this through the lens of the healing space, right? And the spiritual space and psychics and you know, all of this, that we have this poor healer archetype, which is very similar to the poor artist archetype. And actually, the day the attunement came through me for Akashic Reiki, the days leading up to this, I was in Bulgaria on a business retreat. And the thing that was moving through me before it came in was like, I am tired of seeing people that are so good and have so much in them holding on to this archetype and being poor and like mis-selling themselves and dimming their light and feeling like they're not enough and thinking that they're broken. And I didn't make this connection until a few weeks ago, actually. But all of that came through. And then the answer came not from me. The answer came from, I see them as like bubbles that kind of, and it came through and it took me at, you know, it was the middle of the night, 3, 4, 5 a.m. or something like that. It was 3 or 4 a.m. And I felt this thing and I was called to go out on the balcony. You know what? I could have just stayed in bed. And probably a past me would have stayed in bed, but something got me up. And then I was awake and I was looking at the mountains and I saw this come through and this attunement came through and I didn't know what it was and where it was coming from, but I knew, I could feel it. There was something, there was codes in there and there was what I've experienced in the Akashic records over and over and over again was coming through in this purity and this essence, and it just landed in me. And then I wrote like so quickly, like I wrote the what I received and then passed it on to at the time, my soul school students, right? At any point, I could have not done something with this. At any point, I could have rejected it. At any point, I could have come back into the old archetype of, I'm not enough, why me? This is too big, all of these things. But there was something in me once I received that, because I received it first, that kept on saying to me, like, if this wasn't for you, I just got goosebumps. If it wasn't for you, you wouldn't have had it.
Yeah.
And I think suffering really is when we reject that, when we reject ourselves, when we are trying to be something that we are not, when we are making something mean something that doesn't mean anything, when we're living from, and this is how it came through after the attunement, that we have our divine blueprint. That's that thing you were talking about that keeps giving you life. We have this divine blueprint, and this is the thing that will lead us into our highest destiny. This is what we might know as our, for simplicity's sake, as our soul or as our highest guidance, right? And it's there, and it sits there, if you like, in the middle of your Akashic records. And it contains everything of like, when you are up there with no human and you were like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to become this, and it's going to be amazing, alive, woo, right? And then you have these things that sit on top of it. And these are the conditions. These are the identities, right? The poor artist. This is to be human is suffering. This is the ancestral beliefs. This is the religious trauma. These are all of these things that sit on top. Who I know myself to be, not who I am. And what we're doing with Akashic Reiki is we're activating this enough through the overlays, through the things of like, well, hold on a minute. This doesn't feel good. This is making me sad. This is, you know, feeling stagnant or stuck or whatever it is. Like, this is uncomfortable. This is where I'm suffering. But why are you suffering? Because you're living from there and not from here. And so what we're doing when we're living the Akashic Way, we are accepting this. This happened. I know it happened, and it is here. And it is not broken. There is something there for me. This was put on because of something I believe, because of something I was going through, because I needed to survive whatever it was, right? probably through our conditioning before we were 7. Yeah, like to be, accepted at home, which may have come through from past lives, but that's another story.
And there's the inherited from your ancestry and so
from
on.
our ancestry, from our Akashic records, from our karma, from our soul contracts, from all of these places, like from the collective unconscious, this tortured artist, you didn't decide to be that.
No.
Yeah, and your clients didn't decide to be that, but they said, I'm an artist, and then bam, everything that sits behind it comes and lands in you.
And that's the thing, and it's our job as artists, and as artists, I believe we are leaders in consciousness.
Yes.
And it's our job to work through that. I can't think of a better word, but to really kind of like almost like examine with equanimity, which is not the same as indifference, but to examine with equanimity every piece of information that's available to us, and really just work through that until not even until work through that, so that on a day-to-day basis we are living from that fire. We're living from, I call it the creative fire, and we're living from that blueprint, as you call it, but I would say purpose. But there's something I want to say about purpose, because I think societally we're so goal oriented.
Yes.
So when you and I say purpose, it becomes interpreted into essentially a goal. Like
Yeah.
there's a goal that I have to achieve, that I have to get to, a place to get,
or a job,
or like some kind of target or some objective. But to me, a purpose is more like a context, more like a paradigm, more like a world or a place to come from, like a foundation to come from. And that foundation and that place is the creative fire, or the the Akashic blueprint, or whatever modality wants to refer to it as. But it's the same kind of like soul imprint, which is that thing that we're here on the planet to do. And it's not you can kind of give words to it, which I think is useful, because we have a consciousness that understands language, and the energy can be imbued into language, and then that can fulfill its function. But it's not the words itself.
no.
Whatever it is that it awakens, in whatever it is that those words awaken inside you, and your ability to anchor into that on a day-by-day basis, so that you don't forget who you really are. And you can show up in your life, you can wake up in your life and remember who I am, because I'm not my job, I'm not this, I'm not my trauma, I'm not it. So if I'm not all of those things, then who the fuck am I? And to wake up to that every single fucking morning and be in the unknown of who am I, and get up and serve.
Yes.
Like that's all that there really is to it, and that is being an artist, that is being a leader, that is being a healer. And every day looks different. And and there's so much about these layers that we kind of work through, that's also become demonized. Like like all the condition, we just have to eradicate those, or we just have to get rid of but it's like, no, like if we got rid of your ego, you would literally be in a psychotic ward, because it has a purpose. Like it has a function. And with that kind of demonizing of all the elements that make up the human condition that aren't necessarily pleasant, and can kind of like lead to like what we call suffering. In doing that, we also negate something that is so uniquely human and incorporated and embodied, which is the generation of our materiality, which includes things like money and financial security, like physical health, the thing that the sacred energy that creates art, which is like a fundamentally material thing, whether it's paint or if it's music, it's sense and it's tangible in this 3D reality. I think there's a tendency in kind of a lot of spiritual and healing spaces, and even art spaces, to kind of discount that, because if we charge too much, then we're selling out, or we're not.
What does it mean about me?
So we're not being generous. And but actually what's ungenerous is undercharging, because we're signaling that the depth and intention and love and and power that comes through this work doesn't need to cost the receiver anything.
This whole thing about like being affordable, there's place for everybody, but like what, again, this is what I was shown, right? It's like when we're coming from healing as something that needs to be fixed, yeah, if we're coming from art as it's just kind of something to decorate the wall,
Yeah.
we're investing in it as like a means to an end.
Yeah.
When we're looking at healing as evolution, and this is how it's been redefined for me, in Akashic Reiki, we are not healing to fix, we are healing to evolve.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
So when we're looking at that, and we understand that the purpose of our life is to evolve and grow, like nature, we grow for growth's sake, we express for expression's sake. Yeah, we create for creation's sake. Yes, that's it. It's really that simple. And I know that I you know, if I'm a rose, I can't be a daisy.
Yeah.
Right? If I'm a rose, I'd be the best rose that I am, and with the scents and the thorns and the stem and all of those things, right? And I grow into the fullest expression of who I am.
Yeah.
When we're investing in healing from that point of view, what importance are we putting on our growth?
Yeah.
Yes. These course junkies, you think about how much we've probably invested, not just in money, but in time and in energy and in space and in headspace.
You know, yeah.
Like seriously, I'm in six figures on how much I've invested.
Minimum.
Right?
Minimum 6 figures
in the last 2 years. No, but like, but it's understanding like at what importance am I putting on there, right? Is it more important for me to go and spend £10,000 on a luxury holiday, which love a luxury holiday, don't get me wrong, or to spend that money on my growth? Is it more important for me to spend £50 a month on my TV and entertainment where I can sit and be passive? Or is it more important me to spend it on my growth? And it starts to flip actually the importance that we're putting on ourselves.
Yeah.
Through the investment. When it's free, Raphy, how many free things have you been invited to and you just don't do them?
I've stopped signing up for them.
Right. Right. And so, you know, not everything oh my gosh, I am so grateful for the free things that I had like in the early days. And I still will put on free experiences and low cost experiences, and, you know, and even talks like this, you know, no one's paying anyone for this, right? And I'm grateful for that. But it's also like, and anyone who's watching this is investing the time and the space.
They are, and this is the thing. Like when I'm creating free experiences like that, or even like, let's make it like specifically about art. So, you know, the last exhibition that I held, which was back in August, I made 1,000 paintings in 1,000 paintings in 11 months, which was insane. And my intention for that whole exhibition, it was called Signatures, and each one of those 1,000 pieces was a record and a capture of an energetic signature of all manners of human experience. Sometimes it's deep emotional memories that, you know, I could do with not surfacing, but there they are. Sometimes it's my irritation at the dog barking, or the dog barking itself, or sometimes it's just, you know, a particular shade of blue of the sky that I really tickled me for some reason. And, you know, and so it was a range of like the depth of emotion, but also like the mundaneness of human life. And these were 1,000 records of my experiences over the course of 11 months. And my intention for the exhibition was for people to come in and be confronted with all of these experiences all at once, because we've spent so much time kind of like filtering them out because it's overwhelming, right? So this is like, you know, a less unoverwhelming filter for like the reality, the actual reality of what we can sense energetically as human beings. And when we become aware of that, which is what I wanted people to do, I wanted them to remember that we have access to this sensitivity. Then we remember that we are both energy and matter as human beings.
For sure.
Because we are both energy and matter, it means that we have the power, uniquely as human beings, to literally create reality with our consciousness, because we are the bridge between the visible and the invisible.
Yeah.
And I wanted that experience to be felt, but also for people to be able to take away something as a memento. And so I priced it ridiculously low. It was like, I think it ranged from like £19 to £79, depending on the size of the piece. They were all like unframed and naked. Um, so, you know, like that was the exhibition. The next exhibition I'm going to run, I'm going to have 13 pieces. They are all very specific energies that have come up for me really strongly over the course of those 11 months. And my intention is to imbue each piece with that particular energy. One of them is leadership. And to imbue that piece so strongly, so deeply, that whoever walks past it on a daily basis gets entrained in that energy.
Yeah.
And gets to absorb that energy and gets to have that energy frequency be radiating in their life because they're walking past it every single day. Now, that intent will not be met if I charged for anything less than 5 or 6 figures.
Yeah.
It just will not.
Right.
And so I would be ungenerous to the intent of the piece that's coming through me if I were to undercharge. So it's not about, oh, we just have to price everything, you know, to the point where it's inaccessible. It's like, no, we have to just price things appropriately according to the intent of the thing that's come through us.
Yeah.
And that's the same with the free experiences that I create, my 5-day challenges, my Telegram days, or whatever it happens to be. Sometimes I even gift calls, you know, like one-to-one sessions. But they have a very different intent to, you know, like, so if you're really wanting to get what I'm promising, then it has to cost you something, because otherwise you're just not going to get it.
This is the thing. I think it really comes from back to the point of like, of knowing ourselves. Like, what is it that we're doing, and what is coming through? What are we being invited into? And, you know, similar in the artist space as in the healing space, there can be this thing. The witches were killed for a long time, right? If you're in this space, you were probably persecuted in a past life.
Yeah.
Like I'm pretty safe to say that. And if you weren't, you saw somebody, because that was reality for the last few
if you weren't,
years.
you probably had to hide yourself in order to not be.
Right. And so is it not surprising why we are standing up here thinking, well, you know, I can't be seen, or I can't be charged, or that I need to dim it down because this is the overlay. This is what's coming. But it's not a mistake. This is what happened. It happened. Do I agree with it? No, but it happened, and this is where we are. And so now we take that, because I believe that we are the generation that's tipping that, and that moving forward, you know, when my kids are older, and their kids are older, like this will be the way of life. Like, it is about mind, body, soul. It's about who are we. And this comes into, you started to mention about purpose and you know what it is, and I've got a bit of a theory on purpose. Now, first of all, we are perfectly made. The perfect, all of us, we are perfectly made. Our star sign, our human design, our ancestors, where we are in the world, how we look, our body, our challenges, our desires, all the stuff. We're perfectly made. Why? You look at the universe, right? And Earth. Look at Earth and how it's perfectly in it's what they call it, the Goldilocks planet. Yeah, the sun is just the right amount, and Jupiter is just there and protecting us from meteors, and the moon is just there and it's pulling the tides. And if one thing was out of place, if did you just see an orb? I just saw something. And Jupiter was trying to be the sun, it will all go to pot. We are nature. There's no difference. Like, we are perfectly made, and our job is to be who we are, right? And I see this in 3 levels. So there's, in my view, there's 3 purposes. 1, know myself. What does that mean? Know who I am and how I serve. Yeah. And be me, be the best version of me, not be my crap. Yeah. Not be my overlays, not be my conditions, be me, that divine blueprint. For when I am that, I will naturally serve. When you're true to yourself and charging them the money that you're being guided to charge, when you're bringing the painting that comes through you, not because you're trying to be that artist, but it's coming through you, you're going to you're going to serve somebody. How I see it from an Akashic lens is, there's somebody over there going, I wish for a painting or something in my room that can help me, remind me every day that I'm a leader, because
Yeah.
I feel like I can't hold it on my own. And that thought goes out there and it goes whoop, and it pings into you, and you go, I've got this inspiration. I need to create this piece, and this, and the muse comes through, and this genius comes through, and you create it perfectly made. Her desire, your desires, like we're like the human race is like the universe, in a being, right? And then as we do that, it then serves the world. Yeah, because now she's got her leadership piece, which means that she's now doing her leadership and affecting the lives of the people that she's affecting the lives of, which is then changing the stuff. Like, we're all living in our dharma, we're all living in our divinity, in our divine blueprint. Like, if I do it to my best degree, I'm helping you, I'm helping us, I'm helping all. Like, it's not selfish.
No, it's
Now,
the most generous thing you can do.
the minute you try and do it the other way around, well, I'm going to save the world, then you're overwhelmed. You're Atlas carrying the world on your hat, on your shoulders, and you're like, how can I do? I'm so small. And you're a star. But if you try and do it from, how do I serve? What do they need? What do my clients need? And I put it from there, then you're not giving them the answer to that they seek.
Yeah.
Because what they're seeking is something particular, and you may hold that medicine.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And it's that kind of, like, I mean, ultimately, for me, like, what the question is, like, what is my life in the service of? But I only get to that answer when I can honor my desires.
Right.
And I don't just mean desires like I want a brownie. Like,
No, it's the true desires. It's this divine blueprint, and it's learning. The Akashic Way is learning the difference between what is true and what is conditions.
Yeah. Right.
When I first started intuitive eating, and I'm like, well, I fancy a cake, so I'm going to eat a cake. I didn't fancy a cake. And do you know what I did? I took it into the records. I took everything. I became my own Akashic record guide. I logged everything that I ate, not to change it, not because I'm broken, not the invitation was, oh my God, I don't know myself anymore. That was the invitation. I saw a picture of myself. I was like, I don't know myself anymore. That was the suffering. That was me ignoring something. Yeah. And so as soon as I did my best to take the judgment out, to take the shame out. In the Akashic records, there's no judgment, there's no shame, there's unconditional love. Everything's an invitation. I logged everything without with as little judgment as I could. And I started to see and understand patterns. I started to see and understand that it wasn't the cake I wanted. It was a dopamine rush. It was a break. It was quiet time. It was, to something soft, comfort. Right. And so I was like, okay, how can I offer that to me? Sometimes it was the brownie, but more times than not, it was, a warm drink in my hand.
And
changing my.
It's interesting that you talk about food, because that's also so much about materiality, right? Like, that's what sustains our organic material being. And the same with money. Money is energy made manifest in the material world. I think it's like its most solid manifestation. Because, well, first of all, money used to be metal, which is like one of the densest materials that there can be. It's gold or like silver, copper, whatever it happens to be. And so it's that, like, the kind of lowest, densest, lowest entropy, lowest chaos manifestation of energy. And that now is represented by digital numbers, etc. But the energy of that density is still there. And like the same with food, it's what sustains our being. And like the other part for me that comes with creativity and desire is sex. And the same relationship can be had with sex. It's like, are we following desire for the sake of true connection, or is it a distraction, etc. And again, like, no shame and no judgment. It's really this kind of like bringing such a microscopic awareness to which part of me am I feeding,
Exactly what's true.
And there is always the two of us. There's our divine self, and then there's our egoic self, and both are equally important. It's just we are faced with an environment or a circumstance or like a paradigm in which one seems to have taken all the airtime.
Well, yes, exactly. And it's coming back. It is swinging back. We are right now, there's a new age ushering in.
Yeah.
And we're swinging back. And I think that there's certain people who are here, who are on, who their perfect place, was to help usher that in.
Yeah.
And this is what's happening. And there's people like you and there's people like me. And I'm not afraid to claim it.
Yeah.
Because why should I? Like who am I pleasing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? I'm just moving and so no, not me. But I've been there and I know that, and I've been the who me. Even when that Akashic Reiki channel came through me, I was like, oh, I can't put a new healing modality. And I battled with what I called it, but it had to be.
Yeah.
And I knew that. And my job was for the last 18 months since the attunement came through, 15 months, I'm walking the Akashic Way. And I saw it with my food. And I understood then a physical manifestation of what it was that I'm doing. And nothing was bad. Nothing was wrong. Nothing was broken. It took me to come into where I was in shame, where I was in denial, where I was in anger, where I was in frustration, into acceptance. This is where I am. This is who I am. This is what's going on. And how do I bring more love into this? How do I bring more peace? How do I bring more joy? How do I bring more understanding or inner standing here? How do I bring more divinity, euphoria, joy, all of these things? How do I come in? Not to bypass it.
Yeah.
But knowing that it's all there, like all of these feelings, that all of these frequencies are around us all of the time. What we are tuning into will determine which ones we feel most predominantly in our body.
Yeah.
Right. It's not an easy road.
No.
It's not an easy road, but it comes through true expression. And whether that's you as an artist, or you as a practitioner, or you as an accountant, or you as a parent, or you as a, like, whatever it is, whatever your expression is right now, whatever is truest for you right now.
Yeah.
But the question we keep asking ourselves is, where's this coming from? This is what I'm teaching in Akashic Reiki. Where's this coming from? Is it coming from my divine blueprint, or is it coming from my overlay? And we get really good at understanding, because they'll speak slightly different languages, right? And so we get very good at understanding that.
Like that discernment between, because at the beginning, when you're beginning this journey, it's like one of them is just so familiar.
Right.
And then the other one is like this quiet whisper. And then eventually they kind of like balance out. And and you were talking about like this the why me situation, which like if you're anywhere on this path, you've either already been there or you're gonna meet that. It's gonna happen. And I cannot tell you the number of frustrating arguments I've had with God. And the reason it was frustrating is because he just doesn't fucking respond.
Yeah.
He goes, okay, but that's your task.
Yeah.
And you're like, but why? And then just silence.
But why? Yeah.
It's like, why?
Find out.
It's like shouting at the sky, and it doesn't give two shits, because this is what you've been training for.
This is, and you know what, Raphy, there's always a choice. And we do have a choice. And it never is, well, your soul has the right path and your ego has the wrong path, because the ego has a reason for giving you the path that it has. And it becomes a choice. And, one of my practitioners messaged me the other day, she's coming to the Akashic Way. She's going to be speaking, and sharing her experiences about Akashic Reiki. And, she's like, well, my overlays, my programmings don't want to do it. My divinity's like, yes. And my question wasn't, well, it was, well, who are you listening to? And she answered me the best answer, right? She said, I'm listening to them both.
Yeah.
But the one that's guiding me is my divinity.
Yeah.
And that's what we learn and grow, and that's what we're becoming, and that's what it means to live the Akashic Way.
Yeah. Yeah. And part of allowing that voice of divinity to come through is to really, really allow for the desires of the ego, and to allow for, those kind of more, let's say, earthly appetites. For sex, for food, for money, etc., and not see them as undivine, and not see them as something wrong, and not see them as less noble, because those things that I just talked about, money, sex, and food, tell me somebody who doesn't have shame with all of them. And it's so
shame is a very interesting, I think I've lost interesting, and we speak about it a lot in Akashic Reiki, because some psychotherapists that will say that without shame, then we'll all be running around naked in the thing, which I'm not sure is true, but it has a purpose. But when I see this in the Akashic records, it's very interesting. When I see in the Akashic records what shame looks like, this is how they presented it to me. Something happened and now I feel ashamed around it. It's like this ice block has held this record, and it's dense and it's cold and it's hard and it's there, and it's like, I'm not going, and it takes up a lot of space. It's like, I'm not going anywhere until you do something with me. I'm carrying this thing around with me. And if we don't let it move through us, if we don't accept it, but if we keep on pushing more shame into us, it gets bigger and it becomes a beast. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
And so the antithesis to this it's two things. First of all, it's to come into acceptance. When we come into acceptance, that ice just begins to melt.
Yeah.
It comes into water, which is a lot more malleable, which is a force, and that can move, or it can stay stagnant, but it will do something. It's more usable. Now we bring love into this, which is very high frequency. So you can call it love, you can call it divinity, bliss, enlightenment. These higher, if you're familiar with the vibrational scale from Dr. David Hawkins, he's measured these frequencies. We bring in these higher frequencies. What happens in the records is that ice block doesn't just go to water, it now turns to steam. What do we know about steam? Is it's open and it's free and it moves. And now, remember I said about those little things that come around, like inspiration. It's that. Then it's moving around.
That's a really lovely visual, and like the way, like my kind of like model for how I understand or how I see, shame as an energy. Like, so I don't know if you're familiar with like the 5 transformational elements in like traditional Chinese medicine. So like shame is part of the earth element. So it's so often associated with like the earthly desires, like food, sex, our survival, like money, wealth, etc. And so like those are so linked, like as energies. There's like all the earth, and I feel, with my understanding of the 5 transformational elements, both in terms of like studying, I'm not a very good student, but like of my own like experimental experience. Is like there's almost like an invitation to kind of let it be held by the earth, let it be held by the ground,
let it be seen.
Let it be seen. In my momentum cycle, which is one of my frameworks, the earth element is publication, which is when you let your art and your work be seen.
Yes, it is.
And that's the antidote for shame. Like the thing that neutralizes shame is visibility.
Right, which is acceptance.
And like really kind of letting that be given to the earth, which comes with the acknowledgement that we are of the earth, and we are of the earth, and we are of spirit. And that's when the integration of the divine and the ego that can really come together in a way that is remembering our wholeness. Because like one of the traps that we get into is like really negating, particularly I think in the kind of a healing modalities, it's like negating the physicality and the materiality of our being. And those, like, how many religions like perpetuate the shame around like sex, food, so on and so forth, and that is probably in service of wanting to reach that divinity. It's just, but however it's been kind of understood over time and through that system has been confused in some ways for all of these kind of like earthly things being in some way, shape, or wrong or broken, when really it's an integral part of who we are, of the entire cycle.
It is a cycle. It's an evolution. It's a growth. Like, it doesn't stop. It never stops, and it's not meant to stop. And that's the Akashic Way. And that is what we're going to be doing next week. So on Thursday, Raphy and I I'm running the Akashic Way in London, which is the birth of Akashic Reiki. Like that is why we are here and coming together, at which I've been teaching 11 incredible humans in the background on the sly a little bit. I kept it quiet, and now it's out in the open, and we're celebrating in Conway Hall, which is this iconic building. But the history in that building is amazing, and how incredible that the only room available that day was the library. And I'm like, obviously. And when you get in that library and you see and feel the kinds of books that they have in there, which are all about creating change. Every book in there, right, was written by somebody who saw something and went, and there's something different. There's something more. These are the change makers of society, and that is what's going to be surrounding us together. And Raphy is the event sponsor, which you are so perfect for, by the way. You're going to be running a creative talk workshop. Do you want to say a little bit about that?
What do I want to say about that? The only thing I would say about that is we're going to spend a little bit of time together to get to know your earth element, to get to know your sacral element, and to really get more intimate with our relationship with those things that want to drive up shame. Things like our creative power, our sexual power, our relationship with money, and our relationship with death and rebirth and transformation. And in getting intimate with those relationship with that relationship with those elements of ourselves, my intention is that we experience a certain freedom from that shame, and with that freedom our ability we gain or remember our ability to create our materiality, create expression, create money, create life from our consciousness.
Wow.
And from our divine blueprint. So as to how that's going to happen, don't worry about it, just come. But that's my intention.
So there's not tons of tickets left. So if you want a ticket if you're watching on my Facebook, you will see I left the link earlier on. I reach out to Raphy or myself, and we can send the link over. There is a bring a friend half price little thing on there as well. That's still available, and I will keep that on there just until the last couple of tickets are sold. What you will leave with is this real understanding that you are perfectly made, and what that truly means when we're living our life. Yes, we're celebrating the birth of Akashic Reiki, which, by the way, will be running. So like the frequency will be in the room. So you will be experiencing the frequency of Akashic Reiki throughout the hours that we are together. But more than that, you'll be experiencing, who are you in all of this, in this divine perfection that we are? Who am I? And how do I serve? And what am I becoming? And you will leave, I don't want to say changed. You know, the first time I went to Conway Hall 8 years ago, put a photo on my wall the other day. I've had many people reach out to me and go, that you don't look like you. You're not you. And I looked at that photo and I was like, I wasn't me. I thought I was me, but I was missing in there. And I realized this, and I realized the importance of the day is to bring you back into yourself and you back into the room. And that's my goal for what you will discover in the Akashic Way. So there's the last few tickets available. Raphy will be there. We've got some other special guests coming through as well, and
amazing other people. Like this collaboration is just wild. Yeah. Like I can't imagine I'll be able to sleep after this, but you know, just because, it's just the most amazing people who are going to be sharing their journeys and sharing their wisdom. And I think more importantly, these are people who are going to be sharing their heart. And, I go to a lot of events of various kinds, business, spiritual, artistic, etc. And it's not always true that people come to offer their hearts. And I think in this particular event, that's one thing that I can guarantee, just by knowing who these people are.
Yeah. It's going to be special. It's a one-off. It's a once in a lifetime thing, and dare I say, it's history beginning.
Yeah.
It's the birth of a modality which I've seen how it's affected and influenced people, and I see how just hearing the words, the reception that it's had, and this is the beginning. And if we can all walk the Akashic Way, just even a little bit every day, we will make great change.
Yeah. Okay. I think that was the conversation that we didn't know we were going to have.
We've been everywhere. It's been great.
It's been
and this is what it means.
So just want to shout out to the people who came to visit the conversation. Thanks, Anya, Serena, Jamie, Joanne, Jane, and Jess, and Yelena. So if you are watching this on replay, thank you for tuning in as well.
And I also want to thank Joe and Angie and Hazel, and my dad made an appearance, and Hannah, Juliet, Joe, and Joe said it's a life-changing conversation and so exciting, and she can't wait to spend time with us both next week. So thank you all for being here and for coming. If you watch the replay, leave a comment, and Raphy and I will be all over it. And we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Bye bye bye.